So an issue that just popped up for a couple different people in the forums for Maya in the area was that they were selecting their controls, but the channel box wasn't showing their channels. So they were just getting up here and something that looked like this. And you'll notice I just did that with the arrowing down, but I'm getting this curve shape node. And I think that's what was happening to them is when they went to select the object, they were getting the curve by mistake. And the reason for that, I think, is because of display overrides and how Maya selects objects. So one of the big things about Maya is that it likes to know what it has selected. So if I have this joint selected and I hold down the right mouse button, I'm going to get a specific marking menu just for that particular object. If I selected mesh, or type of object, sorry, I should say for joints. If I select the mesh, I'm going to get a mesh marking menu. If I select the curve, I'm going to get a curve-specific marking menu. And this is called context-sensitive UI. And you'll see it all over Maya. It's just very obvious with the right mouse button. You get edit joints, things like that. And then if you have something that has skin weights, you're going to get this paint skin cluster menu added to the menu. If I grab the curve, you see I don't have that menu. I can't paint curves, so it doesn't even show up. Same thing with the joint, I don't get it there either. So what Maya does, because it's doing this context sensitiveness for knowing what it has selected, is when you select, say, a curve, it's going to go, oh, that's a NURBS curve. I know you don't want the NURBS curve right now. I'm going to automatically jump up in hierarchy to the transform node of that object. So if I go over here and look at my outliner, you see I actually have the control, the transform selected, and not the curve, because the curve is not going to really help in this situation. 98% of the time when people are working with this stuff, they're going to expect, if they do this, to get the transform, not the shape. Same thing with the mesh. I expect to get the transform, not the mesh. So if I arrow down, I get the mesh. Arrow back up, I get the object. So where this can go wrong is with those display overrides. So a lot of people use display overrides to colorize things. I do it too. I resisted for a really long time, and then I sort of said, fine, I'll use it. I didn't use it for the exact reason I'm about to show you, but it's still a valid way to work as long as you're just aware of it. The way that the overrides work is the last, or the lowest child, let's say. Let's parent these in order. Okay, so this is the lowest child. So the lowest object, or the lowest node, I should say, override is what overrides everything above it. So if I go to this bottom one here and I enable overrides, and that's fine, just like that. Now I'll go to the top one and I will enable overrides, but I'm going to turn it on template. So what template's supposed to do is make it so the object is unselectable and kind of grayish, right? But watch what happens. I can still select that bottom cube. So I can't select any of the others, but I can still select that bottom cube. And the reason for that is because I have that enable overrides turned on. So if I go back up, so the only way to get back to that other cube, if I don't use the outliner, is arrow back up and turn it back to normal. Now I can select it, right? So it's also true of the shape node. So if I go in here and turn that enable that override turned off, I'm going to select the object, arrow down once to get the shape node. I'm going to go to object display. I'm going to go to drawing overrides, turn on overrides. I'm actually going to say, you know what, let's give it a color. So let's make it red, right? Okay. Now I'm going to go back up here and enable overrides and turn this to reference. So again, reference is like template, but instead of being gray, it's like a blackish color. You can sort of see it there if I get close. And you notice the bottom one stays red, which is nice, except it's also still selectable. It's because of that override. So unless I turn this also to reference, it's gonna still be selectable. But the problem with that is now I've lost my color. So using the overrides is sort of you gotta be aware of your hierarchy and of how you're using it. To complicate that just a little bit more, oops, cancel that. And actually let's go back to our top object again. And let's turn that off, is when you start using, I guess I'm hitting that button, when you start using display layers. So I'm going to take the top group and make a display layer with it. I can hide it and show it, right? That works just fine. And I can turn on templating, and you can see it turns gray, and I can't select anything, except I can still select that last cube. But notice what happens. When I select this, I'm actually getting the P-cube shape and not the P-cube transform, which is what I expected to get, right? So let me show shapes real quick so you can see. Here's the shape, here's the object. If I have this set to normal, I'm going to get the object. If I set this to even template, I'm getting the shape. I think that's what was happening to these animators, is that they had somehow turned on the override above the object, or above the control on the transform level, and it was causing it to just remain on the shape level. So I'll do the same thing here. I'll select my control, make a layer, I'll set it to reference. You see it's still red, which is great, but if I select it, I get the shape node. And even though my animation still works, I'm like, wait, I have this selected, why am I not seeing keys? It's because I have that shape and not the object. So if I arrow up once, then I get my channels, then I can go to my graph editor, see my channels as expected, my animation expected. So it's just to be aware of how that override works. Now, when you're using layers, let me select that layer 1 or 2, doesn't really matter. Layer 2. I'll open up the node editor here, and I will graph it. Cool, so there's a layer manager. That's going to go into every single layer for identification apparently. And then coming out of the layer is the draw info. Now this is setting all those things we talked about into the draw override of the control. So check that out. So you see the draw override has been turned on, even though I didn't turn it on before. But the layer, like every connection, like say you take two objects, translate X to translate X, that translate X of the second object you can no longer control. Same thing here. So it's kind of a little bit weird because that display is being controlled now by the layer, even though it's a channel on the object. So why does it do that? I don't know, but that's just how it works. So even more frustrating can be that you can let me get another curve here. Oops. Yeah, NURBS curve. I'll bring this over here. And I will, oops, I gotta stop hitting Control S. And I'll throw that into a layer and I will make it a blue or something like that. Oh, and by the way, there are people who will colorize curves using display layers. I highly don't recommend that because then you always have to have the display layers in there, and then it just makes it cluttered. For display layers, to me, are like when you're working on a scene. You don't pass layers along. Some people do, some people don't, but I'm on the don't do that. So anyway, I missed what I was doing. What I meant to do was first let me colorize this. So I'm going to do it on the transform node. I'll choose RGB because it's more fun. Make it this orange color, right? So that's on the upper level. That's on the, oops. Do I have I don't have a layer yet. Okay, so now I'm going to do is add a layer. So now it's been stuck in that layer. The first thing you'll notice is you lose that color that you had, right? Because now it's overriding it because the display layer, or because the display layer is overriding the transforms drawing override. And then you're like, wait a minute, where'd my orange color go? Oh, I know, I'll just remove it from this layer. So you delete, you say empty the layer, and it goes back to blue. And that's because it doesn't remember what you had. This has been going on since the dawn of Maya. So it's part of the reasons why I tend to stay away from colorizing things with display layers, but also you just got to be aware that that's doing that, right? Okay, so what do? One is just always make sure when you look in your channel box, you know what you're looking at. If you have the shape node, check to see if you have display layers. So I'm actually going to go in here and now I can delete all my display layers. And now I've got the control again. If that doesn't work, and you've somehow turned on the override, let's put that to reference, for the DAG node, or the transform node, which is the object, the object space node, double check it in the attribute editor, arrow up, turn it off. Another thing you can do is change how you colorize your objects. So what did I do here? I forget. I'll just grab some curves, bring that over, turn it. Okay, so if I go to the display, wireframe color. Oh, incidentally, before I go there, what I wanted to show too is, I can enable overrides on this NURBS curve and make it a template, or I can select the object itself, go to display, object display, template, and notice the difference. In the viewport, they look, identical. But if I look in the outline over here, notice how the second one I did, which is this one, has turned brown. The outliner understands this templating is different from this templating. So if I select this NURBS circle here that has the templating I did by object display, check it out. Under display, I have template, right? It's a different way to template my object. Versus this one, which I can't select, but I can select this way, it's templating through the drawing override, which remember is the same way that the display layer works, right? So these look the same. This one, let me re-template it. So notice this one and this one look the same, and if I look in the attribute editor, look the same, right? They both have enables turned on, but the one above that I use the object display ID to is using a different one altogether. You also have hide on playback, hidden outliner, which is kind of nice, and you can also give it an outliner color. These are, except for when it's templated, it'll always be brown. When it's untemplated, it'll be that, whatever that color is. As well as visibility. You can just do straight up visibility that way, which is different, isn't it? Oh, it's not. Oh yeah, it's the same one. So it's the same visibility that you see in your channel box. It's just the channel has been promoted, so you see it in the channel box. Sorry, my bad. So anyway, you want to know that if you're templating things, how you're templating things. And just Maya has a lot of different ways to do the exact same thing. You also have bounding box, right? And I don't know what geometry, no geometry. I've never used that. I don't know. Don't worry about it. But just be aware that you can template things. I prefer doing it this way because then you can see it in the outliner, and it doesn't mess up with those colors and things like that. So let's untemplate it, and let's kill that layer. And I can also turn off the override here. Cool. So another way you can colorize any object, you can do joints, mesh, NURBS, and curves is under your display, you have wireframe color. And this is how I used to do it for years. And it used to only do indexed. So it's a really old UI. So you select the object, select the color, hit apply. Select the object, select the color, hit apply. And you'll see how it's on green right now. When I select the next object, it goes back to the original. So you got to do it over and over again. And if I just click on the color, it does nothing. So you got to click on the color, hit apply. Click on the color, hit apply. Oh, I need to make another one. So that was purple and magenta, right? So I have all those colors. The nice thing is if I duplicate them and slide them over, they maintain those colors. I'm not exactly sure where those colors are stored. I don't think you can see it in the attribute editor anywhere. I don't think it's on the shape node either. I think it's, either way, that's how you're setting those colors, right? They did introduce the ability to do RGB colors. So I can go in here and say, let's grab that green again. Of course, again, this UI is a little bit annoying because it's kind of old. You gotta do it and not drop the object, right? So here we go, apply. And again, if you don't hit apply, you lose it too. So I'm gonna go here. Boy, this is getting tiring already. Done. Watch what happens if I don't hit apply. I lose it. And then I gotta start all over again. Very frustrating, which is why I built the UI to do this for me. But anyway, one of the problems with that was that if you duplicated it, they would lose those colors and go black. So let's see what happens. They've lost the colors. So it's a little bit frustrating that way. If you use those colors, you might lose them when you duplicate and you gotta do it again. So then you're like, all right, go back here, get the color. Where is it? Display, wireframe color. Come on. RGB, double click, what was it, that orangey color, done, and apply. Oh, I forgot to hit apply. Oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. That was a mistake. It's very frustrating. Okay, which is why I built the UI to do it for me. If you go into the upper level, into index and UD colors, you have your standard 1 through 8 here, and then these ones are all those RGB colors that match the index color. So if I hit this one, what is that? Whatever that blue color is. If I go to my wireframe color tool again, there we go. See what happens if I select it. No, it's not showing it to me. I know it stores it on there because I wrote this tool that can affect it. And hopefully, if I duplicate that, I got to keep it. Let me just make sure. Oh no, I turned it on override. I didn't want to do that. No, don't do that. All right, I got to fix that. I'm going to fix that. Unless, is that how I did it? Nope, using the overrides. I don't want to use the overrides. So now that I see that that works, I'm going to update this tool, which is going to be huge for me because before I never used it because it would always drop those colors. So I'm going to update that tool. But one of the things I wanted to show is if you're not using the RGB, which I guess there's no reason not to use the, well, actually, yeah, there is a reason because you still lose the color when you duplicate it, right? That's what I was showing. Yeah, turn black. Cool. You can still use your index colors, but you can use them a little bit better than the default. So one of the things you can do is if you go into your Windows, Settings Preferences, Color Settings, and if you go in your General tab to User Defined, and this is actually showing 24. It used to only show 8, so I think we have a bunch of new colors added. But you can actually go in here and change those colors. So see how when I move this slider, it's automatically updating that. So I can go in here and make these colors much more vibrant. So I think UD8 is this pink color. So if I select that and say, let's make it bright red. You see how they all turn red? I can go to this blue one, make that a real solid blue. Now they're all blue, and I can save that. Now the problem with that is if I pass this off to somebody else, they're more than likely have never changed those colors, and they won't get the same colors as what I have. So you'd be like, oh, select the red one. I'd be like, I am selecting the red one. I'd be like, oh, wait, I changed my colors, yada, yada, yada. So just be aware of that, but that is another way that you can change that. But I think now that I see that this works to a certain degree, I might actually change how this works and add more of those RGB colors in there directly to the object, which I thought I had done, but I guess I didn't. I got to get rid of that. All right, so I hope that helps, and see you next time. So I did just want to add that while in Maya 2024, you do have colors 1 through 24, in Maya 2023, you still are only seeing 1 through 8. And incidentally, to set these colors, you can actually just, it's a really simple Mel script. It's color-UD and then the defined color you want to choose. So if I hit 1 here, it's going to turn it orange. If I go back there and say change that to an 8, it's going to make it this red. However, if I go above those numbers, like say 18, which is this this cyan sort of looking color here, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change it. It's like it doesn't know. So maybe this is just a sign of something that's coming in the updated versions of Maya that will have a few more user-defined colors that we can choose from.